Yeah, we're on. I see the number of participants now quickly adding. So we'll wait a few minutes for everyone to come into the room and to welcome everyone to this webinar that we've organized in conjunction with FESA Group in Brazil.
So,
See a lot of people adding.
This is great, Rina, as we see the numbers going up. It's very early here in São Paulo, as you know. So people here in Brazil woke up really eager for some new knowledge. It's great to see this.
Great, and we have also Florence now joining from Hong Kong.
Yeah, just managed to join. So just received an email from our tech leads this morning that Zoom is officially blocked by our company.
I'm happy that you're here. Let us officially start, and then we will probably get more people joining us while we start. So welcome everyone, welcome to our panel, and Marcelo to join us and to host this webinar. We started this series of webinars actually a few weeks ago when we already were as Seedlink also confronted with COVID-19 in China, where we have a large team. And we basically thought having a large community of executives and HR specialists among us, we thought, how can we actually service and serve the community? And why not have, because China is in front of us when we talk about the confrontation, the interventions that we need to take for our teams, for our businesses. China is ahead of us. Why not have the community in China that is so close to us share these learnings throughout the world with the communities here in Europe, but also in Brazil, where we have a very strong collaboration and partnership with the FESA Group. So welcome all. That's our background for today. This is our agenda, so we will go through short panel introductions, and then Marcelo will actually lead this webinar with questions that dive into, some generic background, communication, how do you deal with working locations off-site, employee engagement, and long-term effect and preparation for that. And we know that China is already a little bit stepping out of COVID, like post-COVID, stepping into a new. So we're very curious also to hear about that. We will dive into questions from the audience, and then I have the honorable task to try to summarize the main takeaways from all these learnings. A quick introduction before I hand it over to Marcelo. So we have with us, and we're very honored to have them share their experiences today. Amongst us is Florence Tsang. She's the Director of Talent and Leadership from AIA, a large insurance company, and she's with us from Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken. Then we also have Tiffany Tang. She's the Director of People within China for WeWork, one of the largest brands globally in office spaces around the globe and working spaces. And then we have also with us Javier Guimeno, I hope I spell it right, the CEO of Saint-Gobain, and he's been in China for a long time, so he can also share with us his takeaways. The general moderator is Marcelo Nobrega, so he will take over right now, and Q&A will be steered through Bruno Ismail, my dear colleague from Seedlink. So welcome all, and Marcelo, please take it away.
Very good, Rina, thank you. And thank everybody who has joined, and thanks to our panelists for being here with us. Let me just talking to the audience for a second. Guys, use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your page to send us questions. Bruno will be going through them and will help us address those questions with the panelists. So let's get started. Yeah, here. And To kick this off, I want to ask the panelists, and we'll start with Javier, giving him the floor. How would you describe the situation now versus early this year? And Javier, since you are representative of the region or of Latins in China, if you could also talk to the cultural differences between East and West that maybe have made a difference in this process.
In simple terms, in China, the situation now is back to normal, both for the ordinary life and for the business life. I think that the sanitary in the situation is what it is by the companies and the people. I would say that from the health point of view, the priority now is to deal with the so-called imported cases, you know, the travelers that have been infected overseas and are coming back to China, and also to deal with the asymptomatic cases, which if due to that, already life is still a little bit impacted and there are still some restrictions, but frankly speaking, nothing too serious. We still have to use protective masks everywhere and by everyone. We have systematic control of temperature prior to enter any public or private space. And we also have some travel restrictions. There are very few international flights available. And anyhow, we prefer not to take them because if we do so, it's impossible to come back to China. But apart from that, I would say that our lives are back to normal. Malls, restaurants, shops are open. You can. When it comes to the business life, it's also quite normalized. All over the last weeks, in the case of Saint-Gobain, since the end of February, the business activity has been gradually recovering. It's true that the situation is quite diverse from sector to sector, from region to region. But in average, I would say that today, at the moment I am talking to you, the country is operating at 80–90% of the situation before the crisis. In the specific case of Saint-Gobain, most of our businesses have already got the level that we had before the crisis was triggered. We have more than 50 plants in China, and all of them are now fully operational, including those which are located in the area of Hubei, Wuhan, where the epidemic was born, I would say. And since early March, all our teams are back to office and we have stopped teleworking. Our expectation is that in the next weeks, the business rhythm should get faster and much more vigorous. So today, my worries, frankly speaking, is not about China. It's more about the rest of the region, in particular Southeast Asia, and about the rest of the world and the way the economic crisis in Europe and America could impact Chinese economy. And then for the cultural differences, I think that what has made a big difference between China and the rest of the world is the very solid sense of discipline, both at collective and individual level, and also the huge power of the Chinese administration, of the Chinese state. When something is decided here, is enforced in a very systematic and disciplined manner. I am not sure that this way of working, this way of deploying actions is replicable in the rest of the world.
Very good. Thank you, Javier. Let me move on to Florence. Florence is based in Hong Kong, right? So when, in the beginning of the year, when was it that you guys realized that a crisis was coming your way? And what were the first measures that you took?
Yeah. So in fact, the situation in Hong Kong remains relatively well controlled. So despite the recent increase in cases in Hong Kong, mostly as a result of inbound travelers, The epidemic remains limited. So thanks to the complete response to practice, so we practice a lot in social distancing, and we always put on a face mask when we leave home. So we put our mask whenever we go to office or restaurant or meeting friends outside. And we also reduce social gathering. So temperature screening is being conducted at most of the shops, restaurants, office buildings. The government action plan focus on effective prevention, treatment, monitoring, contact tracing, quarantine, and travel restrictive measures. So I think one tips I could probably share with the folks on the other side of the world would be reduce social gathering and wear a face mask whenever you leave home, because these as you can see, the cases in Hong Kong, in South Korea, in Japan actually reduced quite a lot, or the situation has now been controlled because we practice these two things.
Thank you, Florence. And Tiffany, so you work for WeWork. So there is another level of complexity here, that your business is very client-oriented, so, and a lot of traffic, people traffic in your businesses, right? So how did you guys adapt in the first place?
So I would actually agree that everything has basically become to normal. Hope this gives you guys a little bit confidence that we will definitely overcome all these challenges together as long as we being together. So as we work, since we're providing the code space to our members, as from the data we can see, majority of the members have been back to our space. And in particular, we offer those kind of flexibility because they can select what kind of buildings nearby for their employees as well. And we actually commit to provide the best housing workplace for our members as well. So our members, they will feel more confident and more actually convenient to actually get back to go to the WeWork space as well. So this actually provide our business kind of more opportunities as well at this stage. In summary.
Yeah, very good. So we're gonna go into more details of your first responses have been to this question. But now, Rina, let's move to the first question of our poll that we have for the audience. So guys that are listening in, we please want a little bit more interaction, and Rina is running these polls in every webinar that Seedlink promotes, so that we get a sense of how people are feeling and dealing with this crisis throughout this whole period. So please, if you guys can answer the poll that appears on your screen right now. Can we see the responses?
Lucas, can you help with the, yeah, there it is.
So communication is our next topic. And as we see here, people are doing daily communications on the COVID situation, about 40%, another 40% are doing weekly communications. And the issues that they are facing right now, 56% work-life balance, and then second place, productivity impact. Okay, cool. So let's address the first of these issues here. Let's start with you, Tiffany. What are some lessons learned regarding communication? What are some of the best practices here? How do we keep people in the know about what's going on?
Thanks, Marcelo. So at WeWork China, we realized the importance of the communication at this critical moment, and we have developed a comprehensive communication strategy with our members, our employees, our vendors, and we closely monitoring the official government policies and notice every day and react to them really quickly. So as HR, our key focus is to ensure our communications with our employees to deliver a very clear message of our commitment and care to our employees' safety and health. So not only the care to our employees, but only the care to their family members as well. So not only to care about their physical health, more importantly is to focus their mental and emotional health as well. Another key takeaway is to make sure our communication is have multiple channels so that we will be able to interact with our employees. So not just about those one-way official email notifications. So since the week of the January 20th, so we are actually the first group of companies in China market to really use the technology to have those daily health survey with our employees. So the HR team will reach out to those individuals and offer proactive support who have concerns, who have difficulties and need extra help. So we have also set up a lot of special online meetings, for example, with our Wuhan frontline employees. And our senior leaders will talk to them directly to share our company strategy, to share our confidence, and to share our care to our employees at frontline. And we also hear directly from what concerns they have and what feedback they have. So our key learnings in the communication is to make sure they're really real time, they are transparent, and they are interacting with our employees so that they have a great experience during this difficult time. So that is our key takeaway during this time.
And Florence and Javier, do you have anything to add on to Tiffany's answer in terms of best practices in communication?
Yes, I would say that communicating with all our employees on permanent basis and by all means is the key answer to the crisis. We have been doing that in a very intensive manner, emails, videos, WeChat, all the channels available. My advice is not to be afraid of over-communicating. I think that our people need to know that the managers of the company are really taking care of the situation. They have to get convinced that we know where we are going. And in my view, getting close to the teams is an absolute must. But I am also convinced that to be effective, the communication towards our employees must be, for sure, positive and motivating, but also realistic. Nothing worse than treating our people as if they were kids. So, you know, the kind of message, united, we will beat the virus, is certainly very, very important, but it's not enough and must be accompanied by a clear, rational, objective analysis of the situation, clear explanation of the action plans that the management wants to deploy to fight against the epidemic and to fight against the potential business collapse. So yes, very positive messages, but very realistic ones. All that in full transparency.
Very good, Javier. And I think there is a good message here for our side of the world in terms of communicating. So you said over-communicating is better than not communicating at all. And as we saw in the poll answers, almost 40% of the people surveyed here said that they are communicating weekly. So it seems that we need to step up and do a little bit more communication in the region through this crisis. And Florence, if you have anything to add to the communication. Florence, if you have any. I cannot hear Florence, guys.
No, there's something.
No, there's something.
Something, yeah. Florence,
Yeah.
Florence, we cannot hear you.
We cannot hear you.
Let's see if Lucas can hear you on this, and let's move to our second question in our poll right now. And Lucas and Florence try to work out the problem with the audio while we do this. So time for the audience to give us a quick view of their thoughts here and characteristics of the companies they work for. So the question here for the audience is, what percentage of your teams is currently working from home? Well, we have an overwhelming majority here of people working from home right now. This is very interesting to see this. Let's see. Moving to the next screen, Irina, and to the next question. Let's see if Florence audio is good right now. Florence, let's try your audio. And how did you guys set up working from home in this situation? How quick were you guys to respond, and what percentage of people moved to working from home?
For who's the question, Marcelo?
For who's the question?
For Florence. Oh, Florence, well, she started to answer, but I think the audio. Sorry, Florence, your audio seems not to be working well. So Lucas, if you can see with Florence, and maybe she needs to hang up and reconnect. I don't know, try to work out the technical problems, please.
Maybe in the meanwhile, maybe Tiffany, could you take the question?
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you practically optimize the working from home for your people in mainland China?
So the main complaint that we heard that the people is working from is the internet. So you know, in China, so everybody have to use the VPN. So we assume that the email people don't have this kind of challenges. So another thing that from the trend we see, so because working from home is actually not a new way, but we believe that after this breakout is going through, people will really enjoy the way that getting back to the office. This is because while we having people is who working from home, a lot of people who really have the work and life balances as well. So we think the key takeaway is to make sure that you focus on your self-health and you focus on the work as well, but you make sure that you really have a good integration of your work and your life. So that is our lessons learned in terms of this kind of difficult period, how we see that people is working from home. And another thing is that in our business, most of the people and those functions will be able to working from home, but there are kind of a few functions they will not be able to working from home. We may have in some industry, they may have the production employees, and in our business, our community employees, the frontline employees, they may not have the convenience to even work from home. They have to be back to our buildings to provide support to our members. So how to make sure we provide the good resources to provide the protection to them during this difficult time and make sure they feel safe is another thing that we have to think about for the organization, wherever range people is working from home.
Javier, let's talk about some of the difficulties. So what were the obstacles for people to move to a work from home environment?
Frankly speaking, we didn't face any major obstacle. It was everything was very easy and very smooth. You know, for an industrial company like Saint-Gobain, what was more complicated was to ensure the continuity of our operations in our plants. That is much more complicated and requires quite sophisticated logistics to keep the plant operating and at the same time to ensure the protection of the workers. But very frankly, I mean, the teleworking was not at all an issue. On the contrary, people appreciate it. They consider that as a gesture of the company for us to take care of them and to preserve their health and their yeah. So I
what do you
say that we have faced problems.
No, that's very good to hear. And what do you think was the main component for people to move to that environment easily?
Well, the conviction that it was the best for the company and for each individual, because it was the best way to preserve the health of each individual. So that was well explained, because coming back to the communication, for sure, if you decide to put everybody on teleworking from one day to another and you don't explain the reasons and you don't give a clear explanation about the circumstances that are forcing you to do so, people don't understand. But just to give you an idea, we started teleworking before the crisis was triggered in China. For office employees, in the mid of January, we already asked our people to stay at home. So we adopted those measures in an anticipated manner, where, I mean, at the time when still few people was thinking that the confinement or the lockdown of the country was possible. So yes, we decided to go in that direction. We explained the decision, and it was implemented in a very smooth and I would say positive manner. And much more complicated is to deal with employees in the factories. That's much more complicated.
Right. Okay. So, and how long was the work from home scheme on for?
You are asking me?
How long were people working from home? Since early January through what month?
Yes, since mid of January till the end of February. And then people came back to office in the early days of March, and then we adopted a mixed system consistent in working at the office 4 hours and then working at home. That was also very appreciated by the team. So for about shift of 4 hours at home, 4 hours at the office. So and then since the end of March, that means since the end of March, everybody's back to the office on normal.
Okay. So for about 6 weeks,
yes,
stay home full time.
6 weeks full teleworking and 4 weeks. Yes, they were always working.
Okay. So let's move on to the next question, because it's about how to keep engagement through this time. Okay, so let's go, Rina, to the next audience poll. Lucas, put it up again. That helps us go into the next subjects, which is how we keep people engaged through this ordeal. So if the audience could please answer the poll question that's on the screen. So we want to see how important for the audience here it is for them to understand their team's morale. And while people answer this, Rena, let me call you into the conversation, because I know that Seedlink has a tool, a morale monitor tool that helps companies survey their employees and check the pulse of the organization. So you want to jump in and tell us a little about that and the experience that you have with that tool with Seedlink itself?
Yeah, sure. I am now working from home. I have 4 young kids running around, in the background. So working from home I'm really curious to know how Tiffany and Javier did this with their teams. But some people are single and they might, feel more isolated. Some people have families and they have to juggle jobs and kids and home education. I know that for our people in China, the schools have not yet opened, right? So there is this indication in May that schools will open again. So juggling these 2 things is really challenging. And so I think what we found with Seedlink was, okay, how can I make sure that I still understand how my team is doing, even if we are working offsite and there's not this nice coffee chat, at the coffee machine. And so we have built up language technology that can derive from natural language information about how people are doing. So we thought, usually we use that for job applications, but now we thought, why not use it for our own teams to really understand how they're doing? Because if you just do a poll like we're doing now with ABCD, you might be asking the wrong questions, or people might just, you can't really go deep. So we actually started to use it for our own teams, running a weekly survey, asking open questions that people could answer, and we would use our technology to derive sentiment analysis on what people were saying, to derive how they actually are doing, and use those results as kind of conversation starters in our weekly meetings. And that's what you see here. So basically what we've done is we ask a couple of close-ended questions every week about their emotional state, their workload, how their family is doing, etc. But also we can run sentiment analysis on open questions to see what is top of mind. What are they thinking about this week? What changes did we see over time? So where do we need to pay attention to our teams to help them out? And we can also look at how consistent their answers are compared to the natural language of open questions that they answer versus closed questions that they answer, and see how the team is doing compared to other teams out there anonymously. So if our teams are more negative than maybe others out there, we really have an issue and we need to pay attention. So this is something that we actually used ourselves, and because a couple of friends said, hey, this is interesting, we now open it up for everyone to use. So I think in this special time, we just want to make sure that everyone is helped. So this is how we try to help our teams and the teams out there.
Great, Rena, and you have given a good segue here let's listen to Tiffany and Javier on what they have been doing to keep the engagement of their employees through this. And maybe Tiffany, if you could concentrate on office workers, and Javier, if you could talk more about the factory workers, I think would be good. Let's start with Tiffany. And let me just, sorry, Tiffany, before you start, let me tell the audience that they can submit questions in the Q&A box, also in Portuguese or in Spanish, all right? The person, Bruno, who's operating the Q&A is trilingual and will be able to handle that well. So thanks. So Tiffany, if you could speak to how to keep engagement of office employees through the crisis.
Yes, so to us, the definition of the employee engagement is basically the employee experience, and to help them to have a sense of belongings, and to help them to have a sense of achievement or impact as well. So to react to that, so we as HR team to better increase the employee engagement, we have basically launched a lot of employee programs. So for example, we have launched the blood donation along with the professional medical organization, so that we ask our employees to donate their blood, because our society will really need that. So we are very proud to share that as long as we send out the announcement about almost all the employees has already raised their hands, because this will make them to actually provide more contributions actually to the society, and to fulfill more social responsibility and as well in that. So this is kind of make them sense of achievement to help this difficult moment as well to the government and to the whole society and the community as well. So for the sense of belongings, we have actually, like we say, we do have a lot of daily communications, more interacting communications. And at here, so we think the people managers, they really play a very important and a critical role, because people will feel frustration, people will feel sad or lost. So at these times, so those people managers, those leaders will be, if they can provide a timely clarity, if they can provide the new focus, they can provide the new support, so that their employees will feel a little bit supported at this difficult time as well. In particular, when they're actually working from home, this is really, really important for our people managers to increase the communications with their team members at office employees as well. So that is our experience.
So before I give you the floor, let me ask Rina to stop sharing her screen. People in the Q&A box are asking for us. They want to see us. They want to see us up and close. Yes, good. Thanks, Rina. So Javier, if you could speak to the engagement of factory employees, please.
You know, I think that health protection is really the first precondition to get your manufacturing employees motivated. So, as for the other, but the manufacturing employees are more exposed, so they need additional care on that. So what we did is, as I said before, in an anticipated manner, we set up each of for 10,000 employees, and we enforce some measures to protect them, like a body control temperature prior to enter the site, barrier measures around workstations and in shared spaces as locker rooms or canteens. And all those measures were later intensified when the government decided to lock down most of the country. So health preservation is the first condition to fulfill if you want them to get motivated. The second is communication. I will not repeat what I said before, but this continuous, positive, and realistic communication is a must and has to be done at all the levels of the organization and with the full involvement of the senior management. And then, as it was mentioned before, I think that this pandemic has also been an excellent opportunity for we all to put in practice the notion of social responsibility. And we have used that also as a kind of catalyst to better mobilize all people in our factories and to keep their motivation high. So with this frame, we have launched several initiatives of donations of sanitary material and funds. And frankly speaking, we have got a very enthusiastic answer from our people, in particular in the plant.
Right. Bruno, I'm sure that you have many questions from the audience already.
Yes.
No, Rina, Lucas, sorry. Lucas, put up the next poll question. So now it's time to move from to the future and start talking about the post-COVID life and how that's going to be. So the poll, we have another poll open for the audience to answer, please. And while people do that, Bruno, let's see what the first question it is that you have for the panel here.
Yes. So we have received.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have received a lot of interesting questions already. Some of them we'll save for the end. But because we talk about engagement already and well-being of the employees, we have one question from Claudio Guzella from NVIDIA in Brazil. So the question is, this time, several surveys review the life-work balance was the main issue. There was a change in the mindset of high management about take care of well-being of their team after pandemic be a more important issue than before. And I would like to direct the question first to Tiffany and then Javier. I'm not sure if Florence can already talk again, but yeah, first Tiffany, then Javier.
So yes, I think this is actually a challenge for us as well in terms of the work-life balance, as what I shared just now. So that's exactly the way that we believe after this breakout, and I think people will be very happy to be returned to the office. So I think for the management team, as what say, our at WeWork China, our strategy is in our communication, we really focus on the importance of the well-being. The well-being, the total well-being means the mental health, the physical health, and also the purpose of the work, where you work. So that's why in the whole breakout, we not only ask our give the new guidance to ask our employees to deliver the performance, but also to motivate them, to encourage them to provide more social responsibility as well. So this is the purpose why we work and the meaningful why we how we can contribute the whole society as well. So we think yes, we will have kind of small challenges at this time, because for sure we have so many uncertainty and ambiguity right now in the whole environment. But we think this situation will become better and better as long as we are being together, and more and more senior leaders are now becoming to aware the importance of the total well-being, because happy employee will bring happy customers and to bring more productivity back to the business as well. So that is my takeaway for that question. Hope that helpful.
Great. Yes, very helpful. Javier, would you like to add anything to Tiffany's answer from your experience?
No, in a particular case, well-being makes part of our business model and makes part of our values and principles. So taking care of our people, taking care of our customers is something that we do in a quite natural manner. What is difficult in this kind of circumstances is to do it in a quite uncertain environment, and an environment in which what is at risk is the life of your employees. So I cannot joke on that. So, but again, frankly speaking, the things were much smoother than it could be imagined. People understood perfectly. Again, well, we have a culture which is oriented towards that, and this culture was accompanied by the right dose of communication, the right tone in the communication, and people quickly saw that the communication was consistent with the actions implemented, and this consistency between what is said and what is done is fully appreciated and makes things easy. I cannot. I would like to tell you about some special difficulties, but we didn't face. And now, when people are back to the office, I mean, they also did it in a very natural manner. It was a very fluent and a smooth process.
Well, everyone, so Lucas is putting up the answer for the poll here for everyone to have a sense of the answers. So quite some financial loss is what's expected, of course, for most businesses, and people are expecting to go back to normal 3 months from now. So I think this is a good question here, Bruno. And Javier, let's focus on you here. When did you start preparing for the post-crisis situation, or for that new normal, as people were naming it?
You know, when the crisis started, we set up a crisis committee. And one of the main missions of this committee was to create the conditions to ensure the proper resumption of the business. So apart from the preservation of the health of our employees that I have already commented several times, we defined three main priorities to ensure this proper resumption of the business. The first one is about cash and liquidity, and we decided to put on hold or to postpone all the non-vital capex, M&A activities, and so on. We made good efforts to secure our credit lines. We implemented a very strict monitoring of account receivables and account payables, and all this kind of. The second priority was to ensure the good maintenance of our industrial equipment, and to do so all over the lockdown, so that it gets fully ready when the production is back. So I think it's quite obvious that good maintenance is really crucial, as well as securing the availability of some key raw materials and transportation means. You know, when we restarted our plants, the main difficulty, or one of the main difficulties, was to get our product transported, because there was a huge scarcity of transportation means. And then the third priority, and is probably the most important one, is customers and clients. And very frankly, all over the crisis, we have been trying to get even closer to our customers, communicating intensively with them, supporting them when it's possible. You know, we also donated to them some masks. We offered them the free disinfection of their sites. We renegotiated in some cases their credit conditions, so that they could feel very strongly that we were supporting them. And as the result of that, I think that the relationship has got strengthened, and we are now enjoying much better conditions for a quicker rebound after the crisis. I would say even more. It's thanks to this cooperation during the crisis that a kind of robust link, a kind of unbreakable sentimental connection between us and our customers have been created. And for sure, this is fantastic when things come back to normal and you need to speed up and come back to normality.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Tiffany, before you answer this question, there are many questions from the audience. So let's give Bruno a chance to bring something up from what people are trying to know from us.
Yes, so from the audience, we're having a lot of good questions. Please keep sending them. I would like to now frame one to Tiffany, yes, from Daniela Arraes. So Tiffany, how do people feel about being back to work? And what are the main emotions and reactions that they report to leaders after going through this unforgettable experience?
So I think both. I mean, they will have kind of mix, positive or negative as well. So I mean, the most important thing is that how we can create a platform or create an open environment so that they can share those kind of emotions and help each other to grow from those critical experience, from those failures or from those challenges all together. So majority of the people after the long time when they working at home, majority of our employees feel very happy to be finally being back to the community here. They will have a chance to have the face-to-face communication right now. They don't have to worry about the internet issue again. They can print things very easily. And I mean, they can have a much more better work-life integrity. So I think majority of them feeling quite good is what we can see in China here.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, so the last question, I would like to take the one from Sergio Vasquez. So the question is, do you think working remotely is going to become part of the new normal way of working? Is it going to change the way you and your associates work? Javier mentioned doing some hours from work and some hours from home. Do you think in reducing your office spaces, your headcount? So I'd like to address this one to Javier.
Definitively yes. You know, before this experience, I was not enthusiastic about teleworking. I had a lot of doubt about how people were going to behave. I was afraid of losing in terms of productivity. But very frankly, all over the last 2 months, I have learned that if you have the right people, teleworking is really a great way of working. For sure, you have also to have the right technical means, because without that, the communication doesn't work. But provided that you have the right technical means, is a very effective way of working. I believe that this crisis is intensifying and accelerating some phenomena, and one of them is digitalization. It's not only about e-commerce, but it's also about teleworking. And I think that this mixed system that we experienced in my company in China during 3 weeks is particularly effective, and can also lead to a very significant saving in terms of, let's say, office cost, rental cost, and so on, while improving significantly the productivity of people. You reduce their commuting time, you reduce their level of frustration because they are not exposed to the problems of traffic in the city. So frankly speaking, I believe the process is going to get speed up, and personally, I will try to go into this kind of solutions much quicker than I had thought before the crisis.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of our webinar. So we'll try to keep on time as we have promised everyone. And the questions that were not answered from the audience, we will do it by email. And this, there will be a recording of this session, and the answers to the poll that will also be communicated to everyone who participated. So there is a lot more information coming to everyone afterwards. So the last question that I will make from the panel, and I would like them to answer the question and make their closing remarks. And then we'll move on to Rina to bring up the main insights that she has taken note from what she has heard. So Javier and Tiffany, so what's through this ordeal and dreadful situation, is there a positive outcome that you could highlight for us, and then close up with your message to the audience, please?
Well, I would say that all in all, this tough experience has intensified the cohesion among the teams. People have got closer, and also has improve our relationship with the customers. As I said before, I think that they felt for a while that we were there supporting them, trying to help, and that has created something which goes beyond the typical relationship between a supplier and a customer. And then, yes, coming back to what I was saying before, I think that this crisis is accelerating some moves that were already there, were already triggered, but they are going to get much faster. And certainly digitalization of the whole society, not only of the business, is one of them. And we can see that very clearly in China. Many people that had never got e-commerce experience have got it now, and have got convinced by the experience. So I think that many businesses are going to see that the digital channel is going to be even more important than they thought. So those are the three main positive things I see. There are not too many because this is still a drama, it's a tragedy. So for us, it's already behind us, but for the rest of the world, it's still very complicated.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. So Tiffany, your thoughts, please.
So one thing I would say that at the organization level, so this is a perfect time for us to self-examine how agile we are really to respond to the rapid changing external market. So one thing we are really proud is to witness the magic of the self-management organization. So at the WeWork China, we trust the best and the most appropriate decisions will be made by our frontline colleagues. So at the special moments, we are really impressed by the courage, the wisdom from our frontline community employees. They know their customer needs, they know how to solve the problems, and they know how to provide the best service to help our members to get through this difficult time together. So at the corporate and the HQ, all we do is to really provide our governments, provide tools and resources, and to build the platform for the team to share with each other to enable them and empower them. So at the individual level, I think this is also a perfect time for us to reflect how to build our resilience and how to grow from those critical experiences, grow from challenges, and grow from failing as well. So yeah, hopefully that is our summary about the positive outcome from this crisis.
Already on mute, Marcelo.
Nice. Yeah. Sorry, guys, I was on mute again. So thank you, Rina. Thank you, Javier. We'll come back to you for goodbyes. But Rina has now the difficult task of summarizing your contributions.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting insights and also even personal learnings, which I very much appreciate. So I think I noted down that I think China is already, getting to a new, but I think the panelists are most afraid about the global impact, especially because China has a a very disciplined way to implement measurements that are probably not really replicable across the world. So we have to see what kind of impact this COVID-19 will have for China while it actually spreads around the world right now. So that's one uncertainty. I think the second thing that I noted down on communication, that there is no such thing as over-communication. And that what I learned from the panelists is that that initially started really with prevention, right? Taking health measures, but that what was kind of extended to maybe even commitment, care, and confidence. And mental health was also an interesting takeaway from there. And I think also in communication, what you say, that you also do that so that you're consistent in the way that you communicate to your people, and that is very much appreciated. I also like the more practical implications about working. Of course, there is a difference between running plants and keeping those open and all the practicalities that go with that, the logistics that go with that, compared to office staff and teams that are working. So a mixed schedule was mentioned, 4 hours, 4 hours. I think also the sense of belonging that Tiffany pointed out on doing things for the community like blood donations, so that everyone actually feels part of the community and the team. And then I also noted down that if you look at the audience, when people were asked what implications do you see and how long will this take, I think 88% of the audience actually mentioned that there will be quite severe financial impact and loss coming from COVID-19, which I think is something that everyone is aware of. and then also that it will take at least 90% of the audience actually thinks that it takes more than 3 months, 53% 3 months, but a large majority even 6 and 6+ months. So we're basically stepping into a new, but the impact might actually be much longer visible and felt. Now, on the positive side, I think the panelists mentioned that people will be happy for the first time maybe to go back to their jobs and back to work, to a physical environment where they meet. I think Javier also pointed out, we have this feeling of cohesion, right, of team structures, but also I like the comment about getting closer to our clients. So our relationships are even stronger than maybe prior to this, where we maybe take things more for granted. And then I think as a last point, which is also something close to my heart, is of course this shift to digital and implementing technologies to help humanity in this kind of environment, and that it even accelerates maybe our personal adaptation, you know, through crises. So never waste a crisis is what they often say. So maybe that's what we should do. Thank you very much on my behalf for all these great takeaways, and Marcelo for hosting us.
Thank you, Rina, for this great summary, and Tiffany and Javier for joining us. It's a pity that we lost for technical difficulties. Lucas and Bruno in the background, or Bruno more in the forefront here, helping us with the audience, and Rutger in the background as well. Thanks, Seedlink and FESA, for putting this together. I think has been very useful for people in Latin America. Javier and Tiffany, if you guys want to say something to the audience, one last message.
Sorry?
Well, just good luck and keep it up. I was saying good luck to everyone and keep it up. But there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Very good, very good. Thanks a lot, Javier. So people, this is it's very early in Brazil, so they are on the other side of the planet, so it's late for them. So thank you guys for staying late in the office and joining us. Tiffany?
Thank you guys, and take care, and we'll be together this difficult time.
Bye, Jen.
All right, so it's a wrap. Thank everybody for joining. Thank you, everyone. Vai passar.
Bye.
Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Bye, Jen.